This show is brought to you by Victor Nawrocki Realtor, experienced real estate agent serving Disney and the greater Orlando area of celebratingflorida.com. Let's face it, it's been a rough year. We are all of us dreaming of better days ahead, and a part of your bright new future could be a move to where the magic lives in the greater Orlando area of Florida. One of the biggest decisions you'll make when considering a move is selecting a realtor who can successfully match you with the right home in the right location at the right price. Victor Nawrocki is the realtor who can help you make the move you've always wanted to. Whether you're a first-time homeowner or are looking to move near Disney World, Victor is in your corner. If you're looking for an experienced real estate agent covering all of Central Florida, please visit celebratingflorida.com today and find out just why you should work with Victor Nawrocki. I encourage you to create a free, no-obligation account on this website. By doing so, you'll unlock the website's full potential and be able to enter specific criteria, save listings, and browse new properties sent to your email. Visit celebratingflorida.com today. And remember to let Victor know the Solo Show sent you. Broadcasting from the Solo Studios, where... Stan, quit playing with your Lego Death Star kit. We've got a show to do. Here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, the center of North America, on this little planet we call Earth, this is the Solo Show. On this adventure, Stan is doing his favorite kind of show, a trip report. In the guest host's chair is Chris Salata, who will share stories of food, fun, and tips for a mousetac-ular adventure in Walt Disney World. Plus, a whole lot more coming up right now. So now, please welcome your host, the guy who gave Gladstone Gander his first lucky rabbit's foot. Here's Stan Solo.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Solo Show. I am Stan Solo as always, and guess what? Trip Report's back. All right, I'm so excited. I love doing the trip reports. And joining me today is my good friend. I don't know if he's your good friend. You might know him. Chris Salata. Chris, welcome to the show, and how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, thank you for having me on. I'm really good, and I'm really excited to be here today.
Oh, this is good. So we're going to do a part one, part two trip report. We're going to do the first part before Chris goes. We'll take a short break, and when he comes back from his trip, we'll record part two, and that's what you're listening to is one show with both parts in it. So, Chris, let's find out a little bit about you before we get into the details. Where are you living? Where are you from? What's your history?
Well, let's see. I am a resident of the wonderful state of Indiana near Chicago, and been basically a Chicagoan pretty much all my life. I'm married. I've got two wonderful kids, and we have basically been going to Walt Disney World since right around the turn of the century. I know that sounds weird to say it like that, but it's probably, I mean, we're far enough in where I can say that, and it actually makes sense. And we're also Disney Vacation Club members. And the thing is that my kids were raised pretty much on Disney, so we are definitely a Disney family, and it's been a wonderful ride. And I guess, you know, if people would actually see the video feed right now, I'm actually in my office where I have a plethora of awesome Disney paraphernalia, not like what you have behind you, mind you, but I also, you know, I have to have this a little bit more subdued, only because this is my office, and it's hard to do teleconference calls with a bunch of Disney stuff in the background. They just don't take me seriously. But you know, Disney is definitely a part of our lifestyle.
Well, this is my office, and my office is Disney stuff. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when are you going?
We are actually going the last week of June, so we're actually going to be down at Walt Disney World on Sunday, the 27th of June, and we'll be returning on July 3rd. So it's a good full week, and man, it just doesn't. It doesn't seem like I have a lot of time, but I got a good amount of time still. But oh my gosh, right now time is getting blurred before that, and it's one of those cases where I'm trying to get everything ready, both, you know, from a professional standpoint and things at home, before we actually leave. And I got to tell you, that day can't come soon enough.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've been there?
Oh gosh, I myself have, was there last in September of 19 for the Food and Wine Festival. As a family, we were there. I believe it was spring break-ish time. I think in this case it was late March of 2019 as a family. So as a family, it's been over 2 years.
So pre-pandemic.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, and unfortunately. Last year, we had a couple trips planned. We canceled them. Mainly, one was because of the pandemic. Disney was still closed. The second one was because of the pandemic. I had some job issues, but fortunately, those have been all worked out.
Oh, good.
So we kind of played it safe and decided to just hold off. But it worked out in the end, and now we're ready to get back to it.
Right on. And you're in Chicago, my type of town.
Oh yeah.
I loved Chicago so much when I went there. Are you? I'm assuming you're flying.
Yes, and actually, we're not flying out of Chicago. We're actually flying out of Indianapolis. And
Okay.
Indianapolis has become my favorite airport, and it's going to seem really strange because it takes me a good hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes to get to O'Hare, which is usually my preferred airport.
Mm-hmm.
It takes me about 2 hours and 25 minutes to get to the Indianapolis airport. And some people might say, well, why in the world would you fly or drive all the way down there to fly out of there? It's not price, because the price is about the same as O'Hare. It's just such a relaxed airport. I mean, I don't get stressed out by trying to get through security and so on and so forth. It's just a simpler experience, and if I can have a simpler of experience, I'm fine with it. And
I've been to O'Hare plenty of times, and
yeah,
I never found it overly stressful or rough.
I have.
That's usually my layover city when I go to Florida.
Very true. But getting into it and taking care of it, I don't know. I always found it to be on the stressful side. But being that, and for this particular trip, my daughter lives in Indianapolis now. And so we do a lot of things down there. Going to India. I mean, today I went to Indianapolis for lunch. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was one of those things, and call me crazy, but I guess you could say having my daughter down there brings me to Indy more often. Anyway.
Okay, so fair. So you say this is a family trip. Who all is going?
Yes. So this is a family trip. So it's going to be me and my wife, Kathy, as well as my son, John. Virginia's my daughter. And we are bringing her fiance, Will, along. And we have some of our neighbors, really close neighbors that are actually joining us. And we're all staying at, we're actually doing a split stay. We have a 2-bedroom at the Riviera.
Ooh.
And then we also have a 2-bedroom at Old Key West, using all of our banked up DVC points from the past couple of years. And so we're all going to be under one roof. And it's really one of those cases where we were so excited to get a reservation for the Riviera last year that got canceled. So we were really fortunate to actually have even a bigger and better room coming up with there. But there is even a little bit of more of a surprise, and that is my daughter's fiance's family is actually also coming down to Walt Disney World for a period of time as well, because they haven't seen their son in over a year.
And where are they located?
They are actually in the Toronto area, so they have to come down from Canada in order to have a vacation with us, and and this is actually the first time we're actually going to meet them in person. So it's going to be a big deal. This is like a big family, or I don't want to say ordeal because that sounds bad, but it's going to be a big family thing, and I'm really super looking forward to it.
You bring the neighbors and everybody. They get the whole neighborhood going.
Well, it's kind of funny. People may say, well, why are you bringing your neighbors with you? These are people that also love Disney as much as we do, and we have done certain trips where if we don't fly, we'll drive down together, and we'll kind of like caravan type of method down there, and they'll stay in certain places, or they also have an RV, so sometimes they'll go to a local campground, and then we all meet up and we just have a good time. And
right on.
I don't travel much with friends outside of family, but I'm really fortunate to have a couple select couples, and they're one of them that I love to travel with.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Are you? So is the future son-in-law Canadian?
Yes, he is.
Oh, awesome! Right on.
Yes, and
I like him even more now.
he's a wonderful young man. He has definitely got the seal of approval by me.
So being DVC before pandemic, would you go twice a year, once a year? How often? Were you annual pass holders as well before?
Well, we used to go about twice a year. And a lot of times it would be a family trip, and then a lot of times we would also add a small side trip just for my wife and I, usually when my son would go to scout camp for the week.
Yeah.
And that way we can just have a little bit of time to ourselves. And we haven't been AP holders in a while. My wife was a cast member as well. She was a cast member for the Disney Store.
Disney Store, yeah.
Unfortunately, with some of the recent closures, she has lost that position. So we are going to probably consider being AP holders again in the future, if they ever figure out what they're doing with that. Because we before she was a cast member, we were AP holders for quite some time, and we would get like 2 years worth of trips staggered using an AP ticket.
Yeah.
So and I'm hoping that will be the same case again sometime soon.
Yeah. Oh, that's right on. I'm excited for you being able to go more often. It's gonna be a little bit different this time. You got to book the reservations. I'm assuming you have that all done already for your parks and all that.
Oh, yes. We actually did that months ago. That wasn't really a problem. The most interesting part to it, though, was trying to get a reservation for Sabi's workshop, mainly because my son wants to build a lightsaber. And when we have only one day scheduled for Hollywood Studios, and we couldn't get a reservation to build the lightsaber on the original day we had planned, so we had to switch plans with different resorts and move things around all really, really quick because reservations were going very quickly. And it was I have to admit, it was a little bit challenging, and I'm even going to say a little bit nerve-wracking at the same time to make those changes. And but we did it. We've got a great trip planned with 2 days at Epcot, 2 days at the Magic Kingdom, 1 day at Animal Kingdom, and 1 day at Hollywood Studios.
Oh,
and
nice.
And at the same time, now that we've found out that fireworks are coming back, we will be at Epcot on the 1st of July to see Epcot Forever.
Oh, nice.
For the first time in forever. And we
on
will
Canada Day.
I know. It's going to be, and we're going to be there with Canadians. It's going to be awesome. And so, and at the same time, we will get to see Happily Ever After with the whole family at the Magic Kingdom on the 2nd.
And the entire neighborhood.
And everybody and their brothers and their sisters. And we know we are going to be like, elbows to shoulders and everything else, but it's a long time coming, and we're really looking forward to it.
Oh, that's excellent. Is there anything you have booked that you haven't experienced before? Restaurants or attraction? I mean, you wouldn't have attractions booked yet, but I mean, I'm assuming. Have you ridden Mickey Mouse?
Oh, Mickey Minnie's Railway.
Yes, that's it. Sorry.
Runaway Railway. No, we have not, and it was
that's
not
something you're looking forward to, I'm sure.
That is something we're looking forward to. We're looking forward. My son has never been. Actually, I'm the only one that has been to Galaxy's Edge so far.
Oh wow! Okay.
So. Yeah. Everybody else, it's going to be a new experience, and my son is going to totally geek out, and I'm looking so forward to the look on his face with that. That is going to be
your battle plan planned out for Rise. You've been practicing on the app. You got to practice every morning. Get on the app and practice.
My wife has, because it's all under her account, and we're really hoping that that works out. But we've talked about it. And we've talked about it as a family, and we're like, yes, this is going to be really a challenge to get into. Please don't be disappointed, everybody. If we can't, everybody understands it, and it's not going to be an issue. At least from an expectations perspective. We are basically
stressful, I'll tell you that much. It's stressful.
I believe it. And the thing is that we're just going to look at it that if we're able to get in, it's going to be pixie dust being spread all over us, and that's kind of the best way of looking at it. Yeah,
get away from the crowd. Don't be near the crowd. Get a clear signal. Get your quick refresh. All of you tried. I know they're saying only one person in the group should do it. You should all be trying, and I swear that works better.
We're gonna have to give it a shot, but
yeah,
I mean, we haven't tried that, and anything new like Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railway. We're looking forward to. That's a mouthful.
it is. It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. There you go. Oh yeah. In essence, I think this is going to be also a trip that we're going to probably enjoy the resorts a bit because we just want to relax, and we don't storm the parks like we used to. So there will be times during the middle of the day where, weather permitting, of course, we're going to hit the pools. My wife wants to ride the Skyliner.
I was going to say the Skyliner. You got to do that. Well, if you go to Riviera, you'll do that for sure.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, no trip would be complete without at least one ride on the monorail. So we'll do stuff like that. Other than that, we really don't have anything like super spectacular planned. Other than, now that the fireworks are back, that's going to be a big thing for us. We're just we do have some things planned, like what we want to do, and a lot of it is
classics. How about restaurants you've never been to before? Anything booked like that? Topolino's maybe?
No, we don't. And
oh wow!
And it's going to sound really strange, but some of the places that we really want to go to are not really open. Like we would love to go back to the Yachtsman Steakhouse, and it's just not open yet. Now, granted, some of that might change in the next next couple of weeks. I don't know, but we do have reservations for Tepanito. That is one of our absolute favorites. And I'm trying to think. And the funny part of it is while my wife and I discussed all of our dining plans and we got them all taken care of, the interesting thing is that was 60 days ago.
That's it.
And I know it sounds weird to say it like that, but it's kind of like I'm in planning mode.
And what makes it tough
really
too is you do it 60 days ago, and 60 days ago you were probably flipping back and forth and back and trying to come up with the plan, and you're like, well, let's do this. By the time you're done, you can't remember what you booked.
That is really the case, and I'm actually sitting here flipping through a little bit and my Disney experience, and the interesting part to it is I'm actually trying to figure out what the heck we have. Oh, that's right, because my wife, for some reason, did something with...
Sure, blame the wife.
Yeah, I might as well. But, she's got it all on her account. The thing is, with my Disney experience, for some reason, I've never had full access to everything on my account. I don't know why. So if I don't go with my wife, I guess I'm just not going to have a good time. And there are people who know me are like, but Chris, you're such a planner. Yes, I am such a planner, but I take care of other details that she doesn't take care of.
Okay.
But we'll probably talk a little bit more about the dining in part 2.
Sounds good. Okay, well, we're going to take a break. Chris has to go find out where he's going, where he's dining. He got to talk to his wife. He has to pack. And we'll be right back after this.
I'm Owen Lars, and here at Uncle Owen's Used Speeder Lot, I want to make a deal with you. We've got land speeders, we've got skyhoppers, we've got pod racers. That's right, and at prices so low you'll think it's some kind of a Jedi mind trick. Had a wreck with your speeder? No worries. Push it, pull it, or have a bantha drag it in. I'll give you a fair trade rate. I'll buy your used TIE Fighter. I'll buy your used speeder bike. I don't even want to know how you got it. I want your trade-ins too. Step up to the all-new, redesigned BT-16. And now, till Bunta Eve, I'll throw in an R2 unit. What? I must be out of my mind. Now with 3 locations in Mos Eisley, Mos Espa, and our new Anchorhead Super location. Check out our super selection today at Uncle Owen's Speeder Lot.
No Jawas, please.
And we're back. And more importantly, Chris is back. He's from Walt Disney World. How was your trip, man?
Oh my goodness gracious! Well, you know what? I got to tell you, it was one of the types of trips that I could say that it was different in a lot of different ways and a lot of really good ways. I kind of went into the trip with a little bit of a wait-and-see attitude because of all the different things that were still coming back into place from all the COVID stuff and so on. And I was very pleased with just the general demeanor of pretty much all the cast members, pretty much all the other guests in the park. It was really a fantastic experience, and I can't wait to talk to you more about it. I will tell you this as a spoiler. I guess you can say that I was really glad that we went at a time that the mask restrictions were pretty much lifted, except for within transportation. It really made it a lot easier, especially with the heat, humidity, and rain. But I will just go ahead and say that outside of that, we went in with some pretty good expectations, and those expectations were not just met but exceeded.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Soggy socks are bad enough. Can you imagine walking around with a soggy mask dripping off your face all day?
Well, taking into consideration, I accidentally spilled some water on my mask, and I had it hanging. I usually have a lot of carabiners on my camera bag, and I accidentally not had my water bottle fully closed one time.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, I went to reach down to get my water bottle, and I felt something squishy, and I realized my mask was sopping wet, and I'm like, oh, this is going to really stink getting on the bus. And I leaned over to my wife. I said, hon, do you happen to have an extra mask? And she, being the preparing person that she is, she's like, absolutely. I'm like, thank you. It was good.
They got to be 25 cents now at Walt Disney World. Or are they just throwing them at people new ones when they walk in? It's got to be cheaper now.
The interesting part is while they were still everywhere, in fact, they actually had mask vending machines, or I should say vending machines that just had masks in them.
Oh, wow.
Around the buses, the bus areas around the TTC,
Mm-hmm.
Different places like that. And they were just basic masks. I mean, they weren't any of the fancy Disney masks or anything like that. Also, at the same time, I'll say that if for some reason you either lost or didn't have a mask otherwise, they would provide one for you, and it was no questions asked, no big deal. They would just hand you a regular, generic mask.
Yeah.
And that actually happened to one member of our party, and he lost his mask somewhere, and he was really disappointed because it was a Donald Duck mask, and it's his favorite character. But bus driver actually gave him two, and he's like, "Great, thank you." We had extras in the room.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you drop 4 liters of water on your mask. Disney has them for you. They'll take care of you.
Absolutely.
So when we left, you weren't sure where you were going to be eating. Did you figure it out before you went, or had it all figured out?
Yeah, actually, we did. It was quite interesting because we did have to deal with some dietary restrictions and some allergies with us. And to kind of start us off, and when we got there last Sunday, we started our day at Epcot, and we just started grazing around the world. And it was really, really good. I tried everything from scallops to this ham and cheese bread to different desserts. And really, it did not disappoint for the Flower and Garden. Mm-hmm. And it was absolutely fabulous. And I will tell you that the proportions were pretty much the same as they always have been. You get about 3, maybe 4 bites, and that's about it. It's really enough to share between a couple people, and if everybody gets something and you split it between everybody, and you do that a few times, you're going to have a great experience. Yeah. We didn't really have anything that we said that was horrible. Everything was at least good, if not wow, that was really, really good. For example, I did have some seared scallops, and they were delish. I wish I would have had more, but no. My daughter's like, here, let me try one. And she, stabs one, and she's like, oh, Dad, that's good. I'm like, yeah, it was. So, but we did that all throughout the day at Epcot, and it really was good. And at the same time, I decided that it was going to be one of those things where, with my future son-in-law, he and I went over to the Rose and Crown, and he and his dad really enjoy Scotch. Mm-hmm. And so he and I each got a nice 12-year McKellum and kind of enjoyed that as we were walking around Epcot. And
nice.
that was something that's, as he put it, it really meant a lot to him to have something like that between us, and kind of as a somewhat of a ceremonial type of thing. And I really enjoyed that as well. I didn't really partake in a lot of alcohol while I was there, but I went ahead and got myself a scotch. So and it was good.
That's the way to do it. I find food and wine, if I go on a solo trip, it's okay. But I don't. It's $150 just for me to go and eat. When I'm splitting with a few people, I've gone with friends, like 4 friends, and we all take turns buying something. It's much more enjoyable that way.
I tend to agree. I mean, we did shell out. I think when all was said and done, we probably shelled out a good $150 in food. But that was also between. Let's see, there was 7 of us. I mean, that's really not all that bad. And we did try a lot of different things, and it was very tasty. And I really have no complaints about it, and we kind of planned for it, and it was fine. Vast majority of everything went on Magic Bands, and we dealt with it later. Yeah,
that's the way to do it. So I want to talk a little bit. Your son's first time ever Galaxy's Edge. You were saying that you were really looking forward to seeing your son's face when he walks in. How did that turn out?
Oh my gosh! So Galaxy's Edge was actually Wednesday. It was our Hollywood Studios day, and while we did start it off with heading out to Toy Story Land and did Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which I know we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yep.
So we started walking over to Galaxy's Edge, and for those people who don't really know, do enter it over on the side by Muppet Vision 3D. Mm-hmm. You can get to it via going through Toy Story Land. I think it is a little bit more, I don't want to say dramatic, but a little bit more immersive if you go over by the entrance over by Muppet Vision.
I agree.
And
you get that. What's nice is that when the music changes and you don't even notice the music changed, and all of a sudden you're in Star Wars world, you're no longer in the real world.
It's funny you think you say that, because the first thing he said as we're going through the corridor there, he goes, a John Williams score. And so he was really starting to get to it. I could see the smile getting big on his face. And as we walk in, he's like, oh my gosh, Dad, he goes, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, mission accomplished. and that was just the beginning of the whole thing. So we walked around, just generally speaking, to kind of get the lay of the land. And by the time we actually made it into Galaxy's Edge, it was time for lunch. So what do? Well, we headed over to Docking Bay 7, and everything is mobile order. I mean, in a lot of these places, you can't even get in unless you mobile order.
Yeah.
And we can touch on more of that later, but it was nice in a way because we did everything through mobile order. They told you when you can come back and get it, and you pretty much picked up your food and ate. It was really well done. I really had very few complaints over it, but again, we'll touch on that here towards the end. So we actually had lunch over at Docking Bay 7. I had the ribs. My son had the yip tip, which is basically chicken and with mashed potatoes and stuff. He didn't get the gravy. My son-in-law got the gravy, and he said it was good, but it was also spicy. My daughter got something that she didn't realize was vegetarian. It was basically a fancy salad.
Okay.
At least she ate healthy. So that was the one thing. And in essence, we all really enjoyed the meal. And I did have, my wife had the pot roast as well. And it was just one of those things where it was a really good meal. Now, it seems kind of odd that you would have these kind of heavier meals at a counter service restaurant inside a park, but it was really good. And it was very flavorful. I super enjoyed it. We all enjoyed it. We actually took tastes of everybody else's stuff because that's the way we roll. And we sat there and enjoyed a wonderful meal there. And then for dessert, we went ahead and got some blue milk. Yeah, and it was one of those things where my son was like really, really wanting to get the blue milk. I'm like, that's not a problem. We're gonna go get some. So we got some. We kind of each one of us were kind of taking some sips off of it. I already knew what it tasted like, so I'm like, "You guys go ahead and enjoy." And as we're going through, my son is taking pictures of everything that he possibly could take pictures of. Now, the only bad part is that it was raining. And because it was raining, there wasn't a lot of character interaction, which really wasn't too big of a problem, but it kind of muted some of the interactions that usually happen, like with stormtroopers and everything else like that. My son already said, Dad, we got to come back someday because I've got to interact with some more of the local natives, so to speak, as he put it. So I'm like, yes, and I go, son, it's going to happen. So mind you, it was one of those cases where right after launch, we went ahead and went to Smuggler's Run, and it was about a 45-minute line. Now the nice part is, I will tell you this, probably about 90% of the attractions, the actual wait times were less than what was posted.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that from a lot of people.
Probably the only time that we actually waited, if not the listed time, if not a little bit longer, was Flight of Passage. That was the only time that we wait. It was listed as like 95 minutes or 85 minutes or 95 minutes or something like that. I think we waited like 105 minutes.
Wow, okay.
And
it's a long wait.
It is a long wait. And
85 minutes is a long wait.
It is. And if it wasn't for the fact that we had multiple people that have never ridden it before with us, we probably wouldn't have done it. But we did, and the time went by very fast because we had a lot of great conversation between us. Anyway, back to Galaxy's Edge. So we did Smuggler's Run, which was really, really a hoot because my son just loved the immersiveness of the area, and of course the background track of people, talking / announcements going on. He found that to be absolutely hilarious.
I love it. The ship's taking off. The sound effect of that.
Yeah.
Did you let him pilot is the question, or did you you be the gunner?
Well, the funny part is he and I were both the pilots.
Okay, good.
And he was yelling at me the entire time because I was the person that was supposed to turn and he was going up and down.
Yeah.
And the funny part to it is that I'm trying to turn this hunk of junk, and it was not as easy as people would think, because it basically had the turning response of a 1967 Chevy Nova. I mean, it really wasn't all that good, and he was going up and down, and he's yelling at me. We're all having a blast because the rest of my family's behind us, and they're like, "Will you guys please turn better?" I'm like, I can't do it, and
I don't think it's designed to actually turn at all. I think you're just pretending you're turning.
Yeah, it's like, you're only really there along for the ride. I mean, it's just one of those things. But he loved it. He thought it was really cool. My whole family thought it was very neat and immersive, and they really do a good job with that, and they really liked it. Well,
that's awesome. Now, hang on. Before we get too much time in here, you were saying if you get a rise, it would be a blessing. If you don't, c'est la vie. What happened?
We got one. But I gotta tell you, it was I got boarding group like 84. Oh. So it was in the afternoon. Yeah. But here's the thing. I want to give everybody a tip. You really have to do this quickly, and I'll tell you how we did it. In the morning, I got up. I had one of my phones. My phone actually had a clock that was synchronized with the atomic clock. And then I had my wife's phone, which had Disney's Magical Experience, and it had it all set up with all of our stuff. Right 2 minutes before the stroke of 7, I click, and it said something went wrong, and I'm like, I mean, I was like,
it was stressful.
Yeah. And it was one of those cases where it was like, it said, you have no reservations. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I was like, I was so peeved. I mean, my wife came in and she saw this look on my face, and you know what?
Honey, get out.
I almost did. I will tell you, and she knows that look, because I got to tell you something. The adrenaline rush of trying to get everything in that short 5-second period of time after 7 o'clock was really nerve-wracking, and I hated every minute of it.
It really is. So,
cutting to the chase, my wife and I came up with a plan. After we did Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, it was about 12:30. I was really nervous. I really wanted to get this for my son. Even though I said, hey, either way, deep down inside, every father wants to do stuff for their kids.
And you want to ride it, too. It's the best ride on the entire planet.
Absolutely. So, about 12:30, my wife and I got basically a couple drinks and a cookie, and we sat over by the restrooms that were right over there, like by where American Idol was, and we just kind of just chilled out. Kathy restarted her phone. She re-logged into my Disney experience. She went and double-checked to make sure that everything was there and that she can easily get to things. I turned on my atomic clock. Oh, by the way, people are wondering, why the atomic clock? Because my phone's time was literally 1.3 seconds too slow.
Oh.
Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but the whole time that it took for me to get the boarding group took 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. At 5 seconds, they're gone. So you got to get every edge. So we got her phone, rebooted it. She re-logged in. We turned off Wi-Fi. I'm sitting on sitting on cellular data. And sure enough, I go, and about 2 seconds before 1, I refresh, I hit join, I hit confirm, and got the boarding group.
There you go.
I was like, and there was other people around us, and I'm like, yes! And everybody's looking at me like, what's going on with this guy?
Oh, they know. They know.
So my wife and I were really, really happy about it. And it said, estimated time, 190 minutes. So just a shade over 3 hours. Well, during that 3 hours, is when we finally went in. We did like Muppet Vision 3D. The other kids, they also did Star Tours at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that is, kind of ate a lot of time. During that wait time, we also went ahead and ate. We did, we went ahead and did Smuggler's Run. We looked around, but by the time we were off of Smuggler's Run, it was time for our boarding group. Nice. We just walked right over. Mm-hmm. Now, these boarding groups are not exactly like a fast pass. They literally are there to stage your time in line in a standby queue, in case anybody is kind of wondering about that. So you're still going to wait in line in that queue for 30 to 45 minutes. Except for us. We were in line for nearly 2 hours.
Oh, it must have broke down at one point.
It broke down. And I think it was, maybe it wasn't 2 hours. I think maybe it was more like an hour and a half, but it really felt like that. And we were kind of stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because we talked there as a whole group and so on and so forth. But once we finally got on, it was like I've never seen anything. I haven't seen anything like this before.
Yeah. Is this your first time too?
Yes, it was.
Oh, so everyone there was their first time on this one.
Yeah, we were all newbies on this one, and I've got to be honest. If there is an immersive attraction that anybody has to beat now, it's Rise, and the excitement caused by that attraction was like none other, and all the cast members that are doing this are so much in character. They're no longer cast members.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like they are so enthralled, and some of the interaction that we had after, like, we were quote unquote captured. There was a cast member that, what's the best way of putting it? She was about the same size as my daughter. My daughter is very petite. She's 5'0", 100 pounds, soaking wet with her clothes on, and here she is, this guard dressed in a guard's garb, and oh my gosh, you couldn't get her to break character if you tried. Nice. And one of the people in my group, of course, tried. And just the drive that these cast members have as a part was just that was half of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that totally is. Yeah.
But to go on the the transport ship, and then open up and you see these rows and rows of stormtroopers. I mean, even though I've seen pictures of it before, I was just enthralled. I was like, oh my gosh. And you do stuff like this, and you wonder how's Disney ever going to top this? Well, we don't know yet, but
well, the hotel's coming.
Yeah, and as much as I'm a fan, I don't see me partaking of that at any time soon. But mind you, I never said never, but just anytime soon.
I don't see how I can't. Honestly, I have to do it.
I kind of have to agree. It's just not a matter of
I'm a Star Wars guy. I got to go to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when.
Yeah,
and But honestly, Rise of the Resistance. I mean, we all got off of that attraction, and everybody looked at me and said, "I don't know how you got the boarding passes. I don't know what you had to do, but thank you so much for going through all the stress of getting a boarding pass." And I'm like, "Yeah, I would do it again. I would do it again in a heartbeat." Yeah. And while I don't necessarily care for the stress of trying to get a boarding pass for something like that, it was worth it. And granted, I know there's probably a lot of people that don't like the boarding pass situation. I honestly, I don't care for it. I understand why they're doing that sort of thing. Otherwise, you would have people, in line for 6 or 8 hours, and then that's it. And you would never be able to do it. This is just Disney's way of being able.
Well,
to
and
really
not only
break it
that,
up.
people would go when they first get to the park. Everyone would race, run, and kill each other to get first in line, only to get out and get back in line again.
Yeah.
And people will be riding it 2, maybe 3 times, and other people will never ever get a chance because they go, "I'm not going to wait in line for 4 hours."
If that, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's one of those cases where I think Disney's got something good with it. Again, I do understand why they do it, and I wish there was a way that.
I think it's better that they have the 2 loading times now, because it kind of gives you a second chance. Because before, when I went, it was you had 1 chance, and if you missed it, oh well. Maybe next year when you come.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, let me touch base on between this and the park reservations, because I have an observation that I just want to touch on. The hardest thing in the world for us was getting used to the fact that you couldn't just go to a park.
Yeah.
That you had to have a reservation to go to a park, which is great because at least then they were able to control how many people were in the park in a way that's good. The problem of it is that very much like getting a boarding pass for Rise, there was a time in our planning where we wanted to get a lightsaber reservation over at Savi's, and we couldn't one day. But so we could a different day, but then we had to switch things around, and we were worried about losing our spots while we were switching things around. It was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And it's one of those cases where, we keep on hearing stories about how people goof up somehow on their park reservations, and cast members are like, "Too bad, so sad. We can't do anything about it. We're not giving you any pixie dust because you goofed this up." And it made it really difficult. And that was something that was a little trying. And I think it'll be better if they continue that, which I think they are. Next time, we'll be able to understand it a little bit better. But I would probably, my advice to people is that if it's a little bit nerve-wracking, take your time with it. And don't make arbitrary moves in your plans, because you may lose something. I mean, trust me, having the plans is one thing, and if you got them, great, work around them. It was just a little bit nerve wracking.
See, the last time I went with my wife, it was before COVID, and it was before park reservations and all this and that. And she's not a Star Wars fan, but she absolutely loved Rise. She says that was the best experience she's ever had in a park.
Cool.
So we said next time we go, we're getting park hoppers, and we're the first thing every single day we're going to try to get on Rise. And if we get on Rise, awesome, and we'll go to do the Rise, and then we'll hop into another park.
Sure.
So I'm wondering how many people were thinking that. Like, if my wife and I came up with that plan, I'm sure a million of other people came up with that same plan. We'll do Hollywood Studios every single morning, try to get a Rise reservation, ride it, and then do another park after.
I think a lot of people were probably doing that. And at the same time, it's one of those cases where if you really want to try for that 1 o'clock lottery, so to speak, the problem of it is you have to be at the park. You have to be, you have to have already, swiped in, and you technically have to be in the park. That's the only bad thing. And if you don't get it, fine, then you can still park hop after 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's not really that big of a deal. You still have 2 chances. It's just, again, it's one of those things. It's a new thing that I think we're all going to have to just work around and kind of practice with and get used to. Some people said they hated FastPass Plus when it first came out. We got used to it. We'll get used to this as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to love it. I think it's more of a, we'll understand how to use it to our advantage, but, in the future.
Yeah. You mentioned Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad. Were you a fan of Great Movie Ride?
I was, but I'm also a really big movie buff.
Okay.
And so I like a lot of different types of movies, inside and outside of the Disney Pixar realm. So I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I knew it was getting a little dated. I knew that Disney's partnership with TCM was kind of going away. And like a lot of other attractions, they tend to partner with people. And it was one of those cases where you could have updated it, but would have it really been relevant? I mean, how often were you going to have to update it to kind of showcase a lot of the newest, latest, and greatest movies by any movie that's under the Disney family umbrella, which is not just Disney and Pixar, but any of their affiliates. So when we went, we waited, the posted time was about an hour. Again, we only waited about 40 minutes.
Okay, good.
And it was interesting because most of the queue was winding around outside. And we kind of figured out why in the world would they do that? Quite simply, you're outside, and they did it as a COVID precaution.
Yeah.
So most of it is outside, and it looks horrible when it's outside. You're like, oh my gosh, is this really 60 minutes? And yeah, it was quite tepid and stuff like that. But they did have some umbrellas out there, and we dealt with. To make a long story short, we both, when I say we both, my wife and I together on that, as well as my son, we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
And it was one of those cases where it was entirely different. It was interesting because the ride vehicles kind of acted in a similar manner as some of the ride vehicles over at Rise, except not necessarily as dramatic. And we laughed. We giggled, we smiled, and we walked off of that attraction going, that was pretty darn fun. And my wife was like, I wish we would have had time to do it again. And, I know there are probably people that are, throwing stuff at their headphones right now, thinking, why in the world would he say something like that? Because I know there's a huge following for a Great Movie Ride. And I really did enjoy the Great Movie Ride. I wish they would have had both, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that this was it was worth the wait. And if people haven't tried it out yet, I would definitely say make that on one of your to-do lists when you go to Hollywood Studios.
So basically you were saying Great Movie Ride needed an update. Is this a good update?
Yeah. I'm not going to say I hate to say it, but yeah. It's really one of those things where it was a hard sell for me, because back when Great Movie Ride was leaving, it was one of those cases where, like, man, they could have done so many other things with it. This was worth it. It really was.
So you stayed at you did a split stay, Riviera and Old Key West.
That's right.
So if you're at the Riviera, there's a really good chance, if not probably 100% chance, you took the Skyliner at some point.
Ah, yes, we did. And
is that your favorite mode of transportation now, like me, or what's the verdict?
It was kind of funny because on that first night, that Sunday night when we got there, my wife's like, I wonder if we can go ahead and take the Skyliner to Epcot. And it was like, early afternoon, all of a sudden it stops running. And we're like, oh my gosh, no, really? And my wife's like, oh. So we end up having to take take buses out to Epcot, and but that being said, it they did stop it if the weather started getting bad or anything else like that, which is logical. It did run into rain, but if there was lightning, they obviously shut it down. And we did ride it a few times. We actually did a couple different trips. One night we went over to Art of Animation to grab some dinner, which believe it or not, this is gonna really sound kind of odd. Art of Animation's food court, especially with the mobile ordering, really is a whole lot better, and it was actually really good.
That's good to hear, because my last time I thought the Art of Animation food court went downhill. So maybe they made improvements since I went last.
All of us got something that we all thoroughly enjoyed. Like my son-in-law to be, he and I both got a salmon dinner that was offered on Monday, and I think my wife got some pasta. I think my daughter got a sandwich. All of us really thought it was really good, and we were actually hoping to go back just to try something else. I mean, I know it sounds odd, but like the salmon dinner I got was a nice chunk of salmon, green beans, and there was like another side of sorts that I can't exactly remember.
Probably potatoes or something.
Yeah, something with potatoes probably. And the thing is, it was $15.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a lot, but then we kind of compared that, if you got the same size piece of salmon in the store, it would be $10 by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
or if you had it at a sit down, it would be $50.
It'd be $50. Yeah. So, I mean, we really enjoyed it. So we did that, and then we took the Skyliner back. We also took it to Hollywood Studios on our Hollywood Studios day, and really, my wife is a diehard monorail fan, and I am too, for that matter. And she and I both just thoroughly loved going on the Skyliner. We got some really neat pictures of it because our room at the Riviera overlooked the Riviera's Skyliner station. And so we kind of spent time in the morning watching the Skyliner go by. It was just really, really cool. It was one of those things where everybody got to the parks at one time, and Kathy and I just ended up taking the Skyliner by ourselves. And it was a nice, quiet, relaxing ride. Yeah. And there's something to be said about having just a nice, relaxing ride. And if anybody hasn't done the Skyliner yet, thinking that it's going to be hotter than the hinges of Hades on a summer day, the answer is it's not. Yeah. And that's one of the things. They have enough ventilation where it was just fine. Yeah. Now, they say that you are required to wear masks while you're on the Skyliner. I may or may not have taken off my mask if it was just my my family.
What are you gonna?
Our family, and we may have just had it draped, but but at the same time, it was really, really nice. And Kathy got to talk to a couple of the cast members that run it, and every once in a while you'll see it stop. Stop for a couple of minutes and this, that, and the other. And my wife would say, why would you stop it? And she's like, for safety precautions, whether or not, there's someone taking a little bit too long to load or something, they'll stop it, or, they'll watch it really carefully because safety is at the top of their priority.
Yeah. They come in hot though. Like they come in.
they do. And the funny part is that, if you don't have many people in the actual car at the same time, you feel that thing tilt.
Oh yeah.
Or if you're unbalanced and you're like you're facing forward and you've got like 4 or 5 people sitting on the same side, also like whoosh. It can get a little bit unnerving, but it's a whole lot of fun. Yeah. It really is one of my favorite modes of transportation now.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I absolutely. You did Happily Ever After at the Magic Kingdom on July 2nd.
Yes.
Is this your first time seeing it, or for the family's first time?
Oh no, definitely not our first time seeing Happily Ever After, but it was jam packed that night, and we had our whole traveling party with us. And the thing of it is that we were just like, as you're looking at the castle, we were on the left hand side, just on the outskirts of the hub. Mm-hmm. And it was a great spot. We kind of I'll say, staked out our spot. And we kind of needed to pretty badly because there was a lot of people that were trying to, sneak in our spots and this, that, and the other. And I don't want to say it got almost a little rough and tough at times, but it was really, really super crowded. But we ended up having some conversations with people around us. My wife had a conversation with someone who happened to be a cast member that was off duty, and I was talking to another family who also just so happened to be from Indiana, and because we sat there for a good hour and 45 minutes beforehand.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a whole lot of fun. And I will tell you this. I'm not ashamed to say this, but it was emotional for us, just for the idea that, to see this sort of thing. Mainly because we knew that a month ago it was not going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's something about fireworks at Walt Disney World that really changed things. Now, this was also our last night that we were there, and it was also one of those cases where we really just wanted to celebrate our family and celebrate what we've done throughout this week, and it was an awesome way to end it. And afterwards, the park was open until 11 o'clock, and so like my daughter and my son and my daughter's husband, we all walked around and we did a few other things. We went on teacups. We did Buzz Lightyear, and they did Space Mountain while I went around to TTA.
Nice.
So we were able to do a few more things after taking a bunch of pictures. And now some of your listeners might say, wait a second, he just said
You're taking the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, okay,
her husband.
I purposely skipped over July 1st. So let's find out what happened July 1st and why you said husband versus future son-in-law.
Well, actually, it was actually on the 2nd, not the 1st.
Oh, it was on the 2nd. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So let's talk about the July 2nd. This was a big event.
Oh my gosh!
Now I know why you brought the next door neighbor and your friends and your dogs and your in-laws from Canada came down.
So my daughter got married at Walt Disney World.
That's awesome.
And it was one of those cases where it was a small private ceremony over at Saratoga Springs, overlooking Disney Springs. And over at Congress Park, by the Congress Park pool, there's like a little, I call it a nook. I don't know what you would call it, but in the sidewalk, there's like a little outstretched part, and that kind of goes into the waterway a little bit. And it overlooks the helium balloon, and you can see Cirque du Soleil to one side, you see the boathouse to the other. And we knew this was going to be an event, but we also it was my family. We had some close neighbors of ours join us, some friends of mine that lived in Celebration join us, that actually took Virginia and Will's engagement photos because they got engaged at Walt Disney World.
Oh, nice.
Back in November over in the Canada Pavilion. And also my son-in-law's family was also represented. They came down from Toronto. And it was a wonderful time where we first kind of had to work out some logistics, such as my daughter originally wanted it over at there's like a carousel pavilion over in the carousel portion of Saratoga Springs. Well, the day before, I'm like, something just doesn't feel right. I just don't think that it's going to be available. Well, my instinct was right, because my son-in-law and I walked over there and found out there was construction going on.
Oh.
But we always had this other spot over by Congress Park as primarily the primary spot. Well, that morning, we went ahead and we got everybody over there because her matron of honor had a car, so that she kind of towed us back and forth. And my daughter and I are standing over on one side of the pool while everybody else is on the other, and it's pouring down rain.
Oh no!
Now, so I'm breaking out my apps and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. I'm like, okay, this is only going to last another 15, 20 minutes. And sure enough, after about 20 minutes, sun started peeking through. There was some blue sky in mixed with the clouds, and I see everybody kind of got in place, and I took my daughter by the arm and walked her through the pool area of Congress Park, past the fountain there, and her minister from Indianapolis came down to do the ceremony.
Oh wow!
And it was a beautiful 15-minute ceremony, and there was some cast members and other guests that actually were watching, and it was absolutely beautiful. And
now, is this something you're allowed to do, or if security catches you, you're in trouble?
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna be really honest with you. My daughter did try to get a hold of the wedding planners at Disney.
Mm-hmm.
They never responded to her.
Wow.
We were actually prepared to go through quote unquote proper channels.
Yeah.
They never responded to her, and she reached out to them a couple times, from what I understand. We were actually going to do this over at the Paddlefish, because they have some areas overlooking the river there that that we could have had a small wedding there with no issues. Only to find out that I'm talking with the person over there, and she's like, "Hey, just give us some information." And like a week later or so, I give it back, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's no longer available because now we're doing construction." I had no other choice than to be a renegade.
So then your third choice was behind the ball at Epcot. Turns out there was construction there also.
Yeah, something like that. So the fact of the matter is that technically I don't think you're really supposed to do it. And if anybody knows me, they know I'm a rule follower, so I was really kind of nervous about this whole thing.
Because I did hear about a couple that got married inside a tiki room during the show.
I've heard of that too. And I don't think we were going to be that brazen, but
that's a little bit going overboard.
Yeah, that's a little bit. I mean, we were out of everybody's way. It was in the morning, and Disney, if you're listening, I'm really sorry, but we really did try to go through some proper channels, and it just didn't work, and I really do apologize. It was absolutely beautiful. I mean, again, there was no music. It was just a very simple wedding, and we took pictures afterwards, and then we actually went and had the reception at Olivia's. And
nice.
It was interesting because we ended up having to have 5 separate reservations for 5 people apiece. And we had a call. My wife had to wait for over an hour on the phone with dining to call to make these different reservations. And they're all within 5 minutes apart. Earlier that day, we did go into Olivia's, and we explained to the manager and stuff like that what we were doing.
There's 15 of us, and
there was 20 of us, and we just basically said, can you try to help us with this? And they're like, you know what, we'll do our absolute best. Well, they went above and beyond. Nice. And the people at Olivia's were just absolutely fan-flippin-tastic. They put us kind of in the back room area, and we were all seated at some different tables. The food was amazing, and the cool part is that I even was able to order online these awesome Mickey celebration cakes.
Oh yeah.
And it was right there. It was a part of the mobile ordering. And they're like, if you could do us a favor, go in the mobile order app, just so that we can say that these are going to be needed, and then cancel the order when you get there. So we'll charge you on your regular bill.
Okay.
I said beautiful. So we had some Mickey cakes. We all had a wonderful dinner. Everybody raved about the food, and the food was absolutely spectacular, like usual. And we were there for a good hour and a half or so, and they never made us feel rushed. They were always attentive. Just seriously, Olivia's is fantastic normally, and they handled this little impromptu wedding reception like none other. And they really held up to the reputation of just going above and beyond. This is the kind of magic that you get
Yeah.
when you go to Walt Disney World and you go to a place like Olivia's. It was amazing.
That is absolutely awesome. That was so good. Well, Chris, I'm going to tell everybody if they want to plan their wedding at Walt Disney World and they can't get a hold of the wedding people, contact Chris. He'll help you out. He'll pick out a spot for you.
We'll have to have a special.
It might take a couple of chances, tries after construction. But anyways, I want to thank you for coming on. This was great. Sounds like you had a wonderful time.
It really was, and I have to say that it really was a little bit different of a trip because we did some different things. We were with different people. There were some different expectations that had to be met, but overall, it was nice to see that Disney is coming back and coming back strong. Mm-hmm. And I will definitely say that if you haven't planned a trip because you're kind of waiting for things to come back, now is the time to plan. I really loved our time, and it was fantastic. I cannot wait to plan something. And yes, my wife and I are already talking about next year.
Well, your DVC, you have to.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, Ken, take it away.
If you have a brilliant idea for a future edition of The Solo Show and would like to take your turn in the guest host's chair, then drop us an email at thesoloshow01@gmail.com. Tell us your idea for the show, and we'll contact you about a date and a time for you to join us. If you would just like to keep the conversation going or have a comment about a previous show, then visit us on Facebook at The Solo Show. All logos, sounds, and songs that are made by and for Disney and its affiliates are owned solely by the Disney Corporation and are not, nor are they intended to be, the ownership of The Solo Show podcast. We hope you'll join us for the next adventure on The Solo Show. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.